Folks, welcome back to News One Now. Shelley, go to my iPad, please. So this is a story that ran in Politico over the weekend by Carol Felsenthal. That headline, Fire Valerie Jarrett. In the article, she basically says she has no purpose. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's unqualified. She talked about the whole palace intrigue in terms of not getting other people. They think she has too much influence over the president. New Republic did a story. All of a sudden, there's this whole big deal. And I love this in this article. She talked about how Valerie Jarrett has no job, but then she talks about all these things that she's actually done. Right. And it's sort of weird. And what's interesting here is Valerie Jarrett has been under attack from day one. When she came in, Rahm Emanuel did not want her to be there. Matter of fact, there was a previous story when she visited the White House before the president was sworn in, and they were showing her around the offices. Emanuel went nuts when he found out that she was looking at offices. You had that New York Times profile done on her where David Axelrod had this weekly meeting every Wednesday with all these other top people at his house, wouldn't invite her to the meeting. They sort of, in the article, they basically said, look, you're just Michelle's best friend, so why don't you just go have lunch and tea with her? And then they even suggested, just make her a librarian.
Yeah. Give her something to do.
But what about the deeper and more serious issues? Many people will say it's wise in any campaign, any administration, that after so many years, you need to refresh in the button. You need something new, new advice, somebody from on the outside. Because sometimes you're too close to those that are close to you. And no, everyone will admit that the president has struggled. Some things have consistent, have not changed. And maybe, I'm not going to say it's Valerie Jarrett, but I'm sure if people are crying out about Valerie Jarrett, obviously there's an issue there. Now, you may say it warrants him terminating her, but the question is, can the president operate better and have a more secure legacy if she's not there? I think it's a legitimate question to ask.
His entire cabinet has turned over except for two people.
Say it again?
His entire cabinet has turned over except for two people, Arnie Duncan and the agriculture secretary. Right. So, I mean, this idea that, people haven't left and it's been the same people, to me, the president...
He's on his third chief of staff.
He's on his third chief of staff, right, exactly. So my thing is...
Podesta came in last year as a new senior advisor.
I mean, Valerie Jarrett, to me, I mean, if you don't know what she's doing, you're not paying attention. So obviously, this journalist that wrote this for Politico must not cover the White House if you don't know what Valerie Jarrett is doing. That's number one. Number two, Valerie Jarrett would not be at fault for all of these things that are in this article. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous to me that one person in the White House is responsible for all of these things and nobody else. But it's a typical thing that happens when a black female is in charge someplace. People, oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And female.
Really? And yes, black woman.
I'll say this here. I'll say this here.
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe certainly being a female plays a huge role because look, you have it's a boys' club. And the one thing about DC and power, last thing is, and again, you saw it, Gibbs had issues, Axelrod, Emanuel. The thing is, they don't like somebody else who has the president's ear.
And not only that, she's smart. She's political, she's smart, she's sophisticated, and she's a problem solver. If you haven't sat across the table from Valerie Jarrett, then you don't know her, because I have. On many an occasion.
And the more assertive you are, the more these things come.
But you're female. And she's all over.
That's not the argument.
Men, wide range.
Men can do anything.
But I also think this happens after losses all the time, right?
Yes.
There was a huge loss, and now folks are looking at sort of who's the problem. And this is a person who has a lot of power inside the White House. And so yes, I do think there are some aspects of this story that are being placed on her because she's a woman. There are certain ways that she's being talked about, and I think there's always been a jealousy about the way in which she's had Obama's ear, the way that she's had a relationship and sort of a history that other people haven't had. And as people have gone in and outside the White House with all sorts of credentials, they've sort of watched as Valerie Jarrett has been sort of a constant factor and been able to sort of wield a lot more power. So now there's been some losses.
And she's held his back.
And so now people are circling around.
Yes.
I think the question for this administration beyond Valerie Jarrett.
An article on the scene, this is the Obama Whisperer. The New Republic has written a piece on her as well. Rashad, go ahead.
I think the question moving forward is not just about where Valerie Jarrett's going to be placed, about sort of where Podesta is or these other folks. It's over the next 2 years, what is this administration going to do to sort of bring about some real policies that we need to sort of move this country forward, to make good on some of the things that turned us out in the last two elections.
So, but Armstrong, you've been in and around D.C. When all of a sudden you see the political piece drop, the New Republic piece dropped, and then this piece
You know what
dropped.
it means?
Campaign.
You know what it means?
What?
The White House is involved in it. It could also mean the president is involved in it.
No.
No.
No, I'm just
Please.
giving my opinion.
I'm gonna tell you. No, hold on. I'm gonna agree with you on the first part. The White House is involved in it because, again, I remember,
Right.
and I will try to find it. The New York Times Magazine piece that was done on her 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
Had all kind of crazy stuff in
Oh,
it.
yes.
And here's what's interesting. When that article dropped on that Friday, the number of people who were quoted in that article who came by her office to apologize, to say, oh, I said some other stuff, but they didn't include any of that stuff. And then, in fact, the president
Yes.
held a meeting with his senior advisor and said, I'm sick of this crap. Enough of this backstabbing in articles. The next week, another piece dropped in the Wall Street Journal backstabbing her as well.
Roland, the president is too isolated and has too much acrimony with his own party and the leadership. The president does not reach out to build extensive relationships and
that's
allies.
her fault.
The
Well,
president, I'm not.
that's her fault.
Look, if you are a close advisor to the president,
no,
it is
wait,
your
no,
job to do what is in his best interest. But it is.
You got her doing everything.
It all reflects back on her.
Cleaning the house
No
too, I
way.
guess.
As you
No
give
way.
her
Come on,
accolades,
girl.
as you give her
somehow
accolades,
She can only
she gets
do
the
so
accolades, but
much.
she also
It's
gets
not
the
right.
You know, let's get
That the
real.
president is insular. I agree with you. The president is an insular individual.
She
He's
should
got
change
college
that.
professors, but
Oh,
she can't
please. You
change
don't
that.
know what
She
she
can't
changed.
change that.
You
This
don't
is like
know.
the Rachel
Actually,
Nordlinger thing
I
in
will
New
say
York.
this here. I know
She can't change
no,
that.
no.
She can't change his
Well,
personality.
she can't change his personality, but she can play a role to open up
Absolutely.
different
And
voices
she
who
does.
he
But
talks
See,
to.
if he
And
doesn't
she
want to talk to
does.
members of Congress at midnight like Bill Clinton did,
That's
she
true.
can't change that.
That's
Yeah,
true.
she can't change that.
If he doesn't want to play golf
Right.
with Jim Clyburn, she can't change
Well,
that.
let's talk about
That's
something.
on
What
the
about-
president.
what about when he goes to these different districts?
One thing she can do and one thing she did do. When the Shelby decision happened, that very day, after the court ruled, she had us, the civil rights community, sitting around a table talking with her.
You know what?
And she brought Eric
You are
Holder
so
there,
blind
and
that you
she
cannot
was
even see.
powerful.
But it's all
no,
about you
you're
and
blind because
It's
you
more
haven't even
than
been
just
there.
blind.
You don't even
It's
know
not
her.
just about
You don't
blind.
even know her.
I want
I
the-
spent time with her. I
It's not
know
about
her
knowing her. It's
credentials.
about this
I know
country.
her smartness.
And that the president
I know how good she is.
it's bigger than that.
You
But
just, you got her housekeeping and everything else. This woman is an amazing.
You're
force
blind. You
in
cannot
the
even. You
White
can't even
House.
advise her.
No.
You can't.
You don't know if I'm blind or not.
You
don't
are
know
blind.
me.
Listen
you don't
at
know
yourself.
her. You don't know anything.
Listen at yourself.
No, you just don't like
You
what
can't
I'm
even be
saying.
objective.
You just don't like
You
what
can't
I'm
even
saying.
criticize it.
No. It's,
You can see no
you don't
fault
like what I'm
line.
saying. You see?
You should
no,
like what you're saying.
I'm not
I think
gonna
the
play
larger,
I'm not gonna play your game.
I think the larger point is like
20 seconds.
we are 6 years into this administration,
Yes.
and there are going to have to be some changes
Yes.
after
Thank you.
this last election.
Yes.
But
What
when-
they look like, what they look like is
Criminal
up to the
justice
president.
reform.
But it's not going to change
Jobs.
because of Harry Jarrett. It's
Yes.
going to change because the
Right.
president
Even-
changes
it's
his
not gonna be
way-
one
jobs.
person.
But here's
It's got to
what's
be him.
about to change.
Yes.
That is, we go on a commercial break. So,
Okay.
Barbara, I appreciate it. Rashad, Lauren, Armstrong, thank you so very much.